That's me. That's some new music, and it's very like kind of number-ish. Today's theme is numerology. This is the Not a Podcast show. I'm your host, Sean Ongley. This is a live stream coming from my studio office space in my house. Today's guest is Nicco Augustave. The goal is to talk about numerology and other things along those lines. I haven't been on the live stream train for a minute. I don't know how many people pay attention or are concerned about it, but I'll point out that I had this, I got this fresh new scar here, one here, and one here, because I took a nasty spill on my bicycle. Maybe if I had been paying attention to my numerology, I'd have taken a different path that night or something. It was pretty gnarly. It's a fractured nose. This is where we get into the healthcare problems in this country for people like me, gig workers, self-employed, blah, 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 low income. And not that I have a solution to that, because I don't really know anymore. I'm not the old lefty that's just like healthcare for all, because if the government is the one administering the healthcare, then I'm a little concerned about that. I'm not against the idea of it. I'm not against organizing if that's what the will of the people is. Ultimately, I'm for the will of the people. That's my number one ideology. And I remind everybody that I want to have all kinds of voices of people on this show. And that's my goal with it. I don't find it as easy to find every demographic, if that makes sense. If you analyze who I've asked and who has said no, or who's made it so complicated it never happened, or then that's an interesting thing to study. But if you want to know, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave it to mystery. And that's for me to know and you to find out, I guess. So it's an open invitation. DM me if you want to be on this show. Simple as that. All right. Today is numerology day. Oh, last thing I need to grift is my, just check out the link in bio stuff, like and subscribe, do that kind of thing that they say. I want to remind you that I do value for value. That's my goal, is to never charge for any kind of media I produce as much as possible. And for example, that music will be free streaming on certain places, but would be pay to download. But in this sense, the live stream is value for value. A lot of content I do is like that. So if you find value, just go to my.com and you can find that page on the website and hook me up with some Bitcoin. All right, that was a long intro for this show's standards, 2 minutes longer than usual. So let's get to our guest, Nicco Augustave, talking about numerology, co-host of the show Aquarian Anarchy podcast, and a man of other pursuits, which we'll get into. Nicco, what's shaking, buddy?
Yo, what's cracking with you? How you feeling?
I'm pretty good.
That's good. That's good. Well, for layman's terms, it's an 11 day. So if you've had any technology issues or anything such as that, today's the day where shit's gonna fuck up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't have any problems, but I have been doing a lot of posting, just dealing with photos and audio, posting on my blog.
I'll give you an example. So I work over at a club, and it was an 11-day technically back-to-back. And there's a problem with the ATM sometimes, but both the ATMs were down. Yeah. And then they had to come get the one of the slot machines fixed up. And I was like, oh yeah, technology problems, huh? But it given tit for tat, it's not always bound to be something that's going to be wrong, but there's the possibility, if you will.
Maybe I stayed inside all day. I didn't have any problems.
Yeah, hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
Some would say that there's no correlation. If you're just looking for correlation, then you'll find it.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? Do you think that happens?
I don't think there's no such thing as coincidence. Like, I think in a grand scheme of things, if we're going to talk about numbers, let's talk about numbers. Like in the grand scheme of things, there's 1 through 10, but 10 is just 1 with a 0 behind it. 0 is just a big magnifier, if you will. Mm-hmm. God didn't give us alphabets for fingers. He gave us opposable digits. What are digits? Numbers. Like, and you break it down, each digit has a specific value or, I guess, energy that resides into it. So I think in the simulation of things, if we go to the matrix and the 1s and 0s,
we're digital. We use our digits to manipulate the digital info. It's kind of, and that term digits came long before there was digital technology, which is interesting. But yeah,
but it, like, think about it though. Like, you say digits, and if we think about digit or digital, you think about digital. Your phone and everything is composed and comprised of by numbers. Everything in this planet is composed and comprised by numbers. Alphabets, there's 3 sides to an A. You got the 1 and 2, and then you got the 1 in the middle. You got for a B, there's 1, 2, 3. But like at the end of the day, there's always going to be numbers that affects it more than like the alphabet or something along the lines of that.
Wait, so are you saying that because I feel like I've seen this before, that the letters are numerologically structured?
You can actually
well, that's okay. That was like kind of a weird question.
No.
Because I realized that they are, in terms of like classic numerology, each letter has a number, but that's not, I guess, what I'm asking.
But you're talking about the shape of it. To be honest,
no, that's not a correlation.
No, I don't think there's a correlation, but that's only amongst from what I know of, the early and the modern day languages. Now, it could be for a language past tense and something that we have no idea about, but from what I know of, no, I don't perceive A to be 1, because 1 starts with the O. But if you
we'll move on. Nothing to it. Dead end.
Nothing to digest.
I did just listen to a Tinfoil Hat podcast about the Phoenicians, and the phonetic language is their creation. These people were quite powerful.
Yeah.
And numerology gets into conspiracy all the time. It's definitely a part of what people believe is the Illuminati and how they program things. And so there's all these things that are behind numerology. Can I tell you what my the first time I ever heard the term was?
When was this?
Have you ever seen the film Pi? Darren Aronofsky's first film.
Pi. No, I do not believe I have.
And you've heard of Darren Aronofsky, though. Yeah, okay.
Let me just Google this man.
Now, his first film, his breakout film was Requiem for a Dream, but his first was Pi.
Okay.
Pi, and you should totally watch this movie. You'll love it. I promise.
I'll watch it tonight.
It follows a mathematician who encounters an acidic Jew in a diner, and he lives in Chinatown, New York City, mid-90s. And the film was made in the mid-90s.
Okay.
And he meets this guy, and he starts tripping out. He's looking for an organism inside the stock market. He's like looking for consciousness that he can mathematically model in the stock market.
Okay.
And then it gets dramatic because people are after him, because obviously if you can do that, then you can make a lot of money in the stock market. So it's a great movie on like the drama level, but then it gets into numerology. And that's what the first thing I ever learned about it was, or that's the first place I ever learned about numerology.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But like, wait, now that you say that, and like the certain things that you know about numerology and to what degree, do you think that there's possibly a pattern or an entity that just floats amongst the stock markets or the random number trade, if you will?
Well, it's like in that film what he, as a mathematician, he has this mystical way too. But he's not like a spiritual guy, so it's like a real existential crisis.
Okay.
But he's seeing the numbers in everything. He's seeing like the spiral inherent in everything. He's just seeing numbers in nature, and I see these numerological coincidences myself a lot. I have my numbers that pop up, and I know how to do basic numerology. For example, if you have the number 325,
Right.
okay,
You break
3
it down.
plus 2 plus 5 ends up being 1.
Yeah.
So you just add them across, and then you have to understand. But that's all I really know about it. I don't know what to do
So
once
you
you
don't
have.
know the understandings.
Yeah, you need to understand what's the point.
Yeah,
You know?
no. Okay, I'll break that down a little bit.
Yeah,
later.
let's break that down.
All right. So look. So it all follows the cycle of life. So 1 is masculine, 2 is feminine, 3 is child, 4 is structure, 5 is exploration, 6 would be child, or not child but family, 7 would be intelligence, 8 would be karmatic or cycles of life, and 9 would be ultimately completion, if you look at it. So with each one of those numbers you can present, so like 1 plus 2 equals 3, which would be child. A male plus female equals a child. Like the equation,
Right.
or you do 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals 6, which is family, household structure.
Right. That's exactly the spiel that he gives in Pi, the Jew.
So it's, each number has a strong correlation to it, which you can find funny. So like, for example, what month were you born?
October.
October is the 10th month, and so it's 10 plus 0, so 1 plus 0, it's ultimately 1, but the 1 is magnified. So people, you notice about Libras or people who are born in October is that they have like a little bit more of a leader essence to them. There's not like a lot of people that I've known from Octobers. From my dad, born October 2nd. I have like 5 family members born October 2nd. Then we got my
on
aunt.
the second.
On the 2nd. No,
that's a trip too.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
How the hell, out of 365 days, all of you guys decided to have sex on this specific one day or be born on this specific one day?
Right.
And what you notice is they all have the same kind of temperament, but they're ultimately different because there's different numbers that's attached to their birth. And if you want to play this game, let's play longitude and whatever the fuck the word is.
Longitude and latitude.
Longitude and latitude.
Yeah.
Those are numbers in increments, and those specifically break down to a specific energy point that has a number that resonates at a specific understanding. So I'm born on the 6th, or not 6th, but the 6th month of this Gregorian calendar, and I am a Gemini. Geminis, even though we're known as our craziness, we're known for we can see things backwards. We also are able to we're family oriented. A lot of Geminis that I know are tend to be family oriented in some type of way, or some structure of a family orientation that they would like to proceed with.
Mm-hmm.
So each number has I would say a blaring characteristic. Now it can get to advanced numerology where people don't necessarily understand about master numbers and things like that.
What's a master number?
A master number would be 11, 22, or 33. If you think about it and you break it down, 11, if you look at a lot of the artists that are let's say athletes, you break down a lot of athletes, they're 11 or 1 life paths. If you break down a lot of singers, they're 11 life paths, or what I think it might be 5 life paths. So 5 is meant for exploration, entertainment, because you look at the number 5 and 5 is open on both sides. You have to understand the structure of it. 1 is the leading figure. It's like a man. A man has 1 logical task at hand. He's worried about 1 logical task at hand. What 2 is worried about is following after, like, I wouldn't say women have to follow, but it's like it follows after one. Like it watches after one, and it makes sure that three, 4, and 6 are taken care of, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
the number game is very the characteristics are very minute but very very abrasive to the face if you pay attention to it, how it repeats and how repetitive it is amongst people.
I'm thinking about this question. This
Okay.
question is, what is the history of this thought and how is it traced? Like,
uh,
I think it comes out of a lot of tradition to where there's no original author of any of this.
no.
Right.
So wait, now we ask who's the original author or the creator, because we can have history tell us who created it, but if you look at their history books, they'll tell you somebody else created it. Who is the genuine author and the illustrator of math?
Well, math, you could say math itself, just raw math. Math is just, it's like inherent,
Yeah.
when you just start looking and analyzing around you. If you grab a sand, say, okay, I'm going to count every piece of this and this handful of sand. And then somebody eventually came up with a reckoning for how much sand contained the earth, what could be contained in the earth. And that's called the sand reckoner. These
Jeez.
ancient mathematicians, they just looked at their surroundings. So there's no author to math except for God, you could say.
Mm-hmm. But what if somebody didn't believe in God? How would numbers essentially exist if that person doesn't? Well, God didn't create numbers. They would say man created numbers, but like, how would one? It's like conducively like coming up with who created language. How would
That's
one
what I was
person?
going to say.
Yeah,
It's the
how would one
same
person?
thing. Math is the language of the universe. So it's like man created the language, but you could have 1,000 languages saying the exact same thing. You can have one language using one word to say, referring to the same thing,
Yeah,
like the Eskimos and snow.
yeah,
All these different types of snow, that they have a need for language for. But
right.
they didn't create the snow; they just created the language for it.
Mhm.
Versus numerology and astrology, which is an interpretation of numbers and astronomical phenomenon. That language is an interpretation, so it's not like a raw. It's not like a raw fact like math.
No, math is strictly factual,
Yeah.
but it's funny how if I were to do like a genuine breakdown for like myself, it's like astrology and like how people align with their signs or they don't align with their signs because it's subjective, if you will. It's like me and my tarot cards. Like I could sit down and do a reading and speak about a specific situation to you, and it can hit you in one way and then not resonate in another, but it's because of what you're thinking behind the whole story that I've already laid out for you.
That's what the astrology is. That's when.
Yeah,
That's what you said.
astrology in the essence of like the whole occultic circle behind it all.
Mhm.
Because yes, math is used on an everyday basis, but how many people are going to feel like, oh yeah, I'm a one life path because my birthday comes down to this, but I feel like I'm like an 8 life path. Like it's something completely different, but it's subjective to how you perceive the reality.
Right.
You feel me?
Yeah. And then really within the systems, both astrology and numerology, they both have their life path kind of analysis.
Mm-hmm.
There's an explanation for it all. Like, okay, you are a Libra, I'm a Libra to start with, but then I have all these other things, and they all can influence. So you can say nobody's just the personality of the sun sign. They also have this other stuff going on.
Yeah, they have so many other things that attribute to the makeup of the person.
So I can accept that the language that they built, the system that the astrologers and numerologists have built, takes care of all that. I see that, and it doesn't bother me. I don't take it too seriously, but I probably should, because truth is, you did my chart. I
Yeah.
didn't mention that at the top of the
Wait,
show.
matter of fact, how we've only went through it through text, and you showed me that number 5 is really prevalent number for you.
Uh-huh.
And what's funny is that, like I said, 5 is the number of entertainment, yet you are somebody who is you played your music. You sit down, you make your music, you're so open-minded, like you don't get closed in that box.
Right. I do a lot of things. My music, I do a lot of things within music, but then beyond music. I'm a
Mhm.
Light Path 8, right? That was what I remember.
I believe.
Yeah, it's 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the notes too. I should have pulled them up actually.
I should have brought them out.
Well, we both of us didn't think of
Yeah, it's a jag on both of us.
But that's okay. I don't have to analyze that. But yeah, I tried to follow your advice to see how it goes, and some things that like I realize. You warned me never not to work, not to do any work between like 7 and 9, I believe it was.
Yeah.
PM, like every day, just to chill out, do something different. And I can't always do that, but I've kept that in mind ever since. And I think it's true. I tend to tire out unless like there's some really great energy feeding a project, and I'm just really
you're amped that day. Yeah.
I tend to start retiring around that time very, very naturally. So I think that that's what you want. You want to notice that these things align with your normal natural behaviors already, versus I think if you're going to apply numerology or astrology to your life, you shouldn't go out of your way to embody it and become that. Like,
right.
It's
just tools. It's just tools for your everyday navigation, but some people take it to heart and it's like embedded in their like whole genome, and like I won't fall off this chart because that's where you get fucked up. Because I honestly think this is like my favorite thing to do is I perceive numerology, astrology, and all this other fun shit as God playing The Sims with us, but just rotating a certain number and saying, all right, I'm gonna choose this life or I'm gonna choose that life and see what kind of inspiration or thought or lessons that I learn via this construction or this makeup of somebody.
Okay. So when you say turning the dial or whatever, like God turning the dial, turning the number, like, are you talking about one? Do you believe in reincarnation? Are you talking about one soul? Or are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I do believe in reincarnation to a degree, but I ain't die yet from what I know. So I came into this world born, but it's like we all, like, in essence, have like something that's deep inside of us, aka our soul.
Yeah. And is that what has the life path? Is it the soul that has the life path, or is it just the meat body? Like that?
It's the meat body.
Okay.
It's the meat body that. So, like I said, it's The Sims. Like, say if God said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna be a mushroom on Saturn," and then go out through that whole entire lesson of what the fuck a mushroom lives life on Saturn like, or whatever kind of entity is on Saturn. He decides what kind of makeup it is. Or actually, matter of fact, have you seen the movie Everywhere is Everything All at Once?
No.
Watch it. It's fucking phenomenal. It's about parallel universes and about a lady who actually is able to tap into the parallel universe to help her navigate certain things and certain challenges. But one thing that it pointed out was is like God, quote unquote, can reincarnate into a rock and like be sand at first, and then the molecules build up everything to it being a solid entity. What people don't understand is yes, numbers are very important, but vibrations are another very important thing. But vibrations you can't omit without numbers. Vibrations are a certain rhythm and a certain groove, and it moves at a certain frequency and a certain rate. Like numbers are very like crucial to the ideology and the thought of a lot of things that people don't give thought into. So right now, let's say this chapstick. We say this chapstick is something that is just inanimate, but in a whole different parallel, in a whole different universe, I just picked up a cat. because it's vibrating at a different frequency or a different thought pattern or a different thought process.
Okay.
But that's my thought process. It's not everybody's. You feel me?
Yeah. I mean, we don't know. You realize you don't know all the time, right?
You don't know shit because this world is forever expanding, and whatever you thought you didn't know could be recorrected tomorrow.
Yeah. So it's fun.
Yeah.
What you do. Let's try to I feel like I don't know where to start. We've been orbiting all around it.
Yeah.
But where does it, how do you, if say, let's just try to dial it way back and say, if you're telling somebody about numerology from the very beginning, you started going with the, like, those, how the numbers.
Yeah. How the numbers and,
but like, what would you say to somebody just like elevator pitch style? What is the point to you of it?
Okay. So,
like, what is it all about?
Numerology to me, in a general sense, is a genetic makeup to help somebody, like a numerological makeup of how somebody can get a better understanding of their life and who they are with the certain energies and vibrations of said numbers, and not to go against the grain, but to go with the grain to make your life much more compatible in a digital ass world. So that would be, go ahead.
So and when you did my chart, you gave me an understanding of my number, and then you broke down every date and gave me recommendations.
Like specific things you possibly do.
Right. And so you're judging that based on how my number interacts with these other dynamics.
Yes. Compatibility amongst numbers.
Right. And you derive that from the numbers on the calendar.
Yep.
And then you're just always going against
numbers and a mixture of astrology. I don't forget astrology.
Right. You did include that.
Yeah. I add a little hint of astrology so that you understand how, I guess, the stars are moving along with the numbers. Like, you take it back to numbers, and it's always going to go to energies or vibrations to me. Each energy or vibration has a specific understanding. For example, I'm a Gemini, right? Me and you are of the same sign. You're an air sign, along me being an air sign. Air signs are compatible to a degree. And so,
there's some classic Gemini Libra pairs.
You feel me?
John Lennon and Paul McCartney are the only two that I remember.
But like, you see how the symmetry, like how they were able to synchronize and like were able to really, like,
they're different. They're different, but they complemented each other so long as they cooperated.
Exactly. And so that's how numbers work. If you look at Shaq and Kobe disliked each other, but that was because they weren't compatible, but they were both good.
They're like, Libra Gemini?
No. They're different signs.
But
don't remember specifically per se.
Yeah.
But like, you can go and it breaks down to numbers to me as well. So you have to incorporate it all to get the whole consensus of what said compatibilities are.
Okay. Cool. And okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. But I'll go with this other train of thought.
Mm-hmm.
So because you break down a chart and say you should do these things on this day, and I did try to follow it. I couldn't to a T, but I liked it when certain things aligned. So you're like, today's a good day for promotion. And be like, okay, great. I already scheduled a podcast that day, or not a podcast that day. And now that's good. So it's already in line. Right. Or travel. You say there's good time travel. oh, good, looks like the tickets are cheap this day. I'll do that. You know.
Look,
So it's like I liked it that it kind of gave me a way to, I don't know, just something about it just is nice to. There's a comfort to it somehow,
mhm.
and it could be a placebo effect, but that's
Well, I mean,
placebos are powerful too.
it it's your reality that you create for yourself. You
Yeah.
genuinely dictate your reality off of, like, for example, this whole CVID COVID thing just
Uh,
happened, popped off. You sat down in front of the TV and you were told things repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. Your reality became so scary,
right.
opposed to other people just genuinely living their life based off the reality that they were comfortable with and accepting and understanding of it. And then they had they didn't go crazy. They didn't go buck wild. I mean, granted, it still affects people, but like, it's all about how much effort you put into that thought, if you will.
Yeah. So that's on the conspiracy tip, which is kind of where I was leading. It's that if you do that for me, give me a chart, and I can arrange things in my life toward it.
Mm-hmm.
The extension is all the way to the top. That the belief is that these, uh,
Said so,
if I mean,
individuals. Yeah,
yeah, that the redacted, the Illuminati, the 0.1%, whatever you want to call them, these folks
oh, they
are,
use it all the time.
they
They
use
use
it.
that shit all the time.
Yeah, I believe that. And so when you see these numbers, 11s, 23s, 33s, you watch movies, 33 is constant. 23s
33
and
is the
33s are
master.
always like
It's
on a
33
on a
and then
cab or a bus or a apartment number. It's like always.
hey, wait. I'm about to mess y'all heads up. So every time you're watching a movie and you see a phone number says 555, it's
So
always going to be like 555 in the middle. And that means change. There's going to be a specific or some kind of random change that happens. Um, I also use angel numbers, if you will. Like angel numbers, like, I can genuinely say that I've sat down and had specific and certain thoughts, and then there's this number that just blares out at me, and I'm like, I look up at the angel numbers, and lo and behold, it's like very cohesive with what my thoughts are at that time. And I'm
mhm,
like, what the fuck? This is kind of weird.
uh,
So like, that's what's also giving me the faith in numbers to the degree is like,
you
okay,
test it. You test it
I
against things that are happening.
yes, in my day-to-day life, like, it really exploded like 2.5 years ago. And I would always be in the car with my I was be on the way to work with my siblings or cousins, if you will. And we would be on the highway and I'm like, repeating number, repeating number, repeating number. And then I just like, fuck it, let me look this up. All of a sudden, you're expanding or you're doing this, you're doing that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So when you're able to like have certain repeating numbers that like are in your life, it's very beneficial to like be much more open to the idea that numbers have a lot more meaning than just being a one and a zero.
Okay. Um, such as
All right, so for example, even though everybody hates this number, I love this number. Every time I see 911, 911, like,
mhm.
it means not to worry like about something specific that I'm worrying about. Or if you see like the numbers 222,
How does wait? How does 911 mean that?
how does it mean that?
Yeah.
You know what? Let's just look this shit up right here, right now.
Okay.
This is something that I looked up a long time ago.
Right. Right. I
And
mean, so obviously 911 is while you're doing that, I'll say 911 is the emergency number. It's
yes,
September 11th. It has a lot of negative connotation, but
11 does
but
have a lot of tough connotation.
but like if you break it down in terms of ritual, like wouldn't nine? Well, you got revolution number nine.
Yeah.
uh, so it's kind of a revolution that happened on that day. Of course, I'm making my own correlation. Is that number 9 is man, right?
9 is warlike, strong, rough, rustic, perfectionist, doubting, fighting, alienating, and discriminating.
What is it in Torah?
And Torah, what you as in?
I don't mean to get you like, not Torah. Sorry, I don't know my terms. I don't want to throw you off either. You were counting it's like man, woman, child, family.
So like, what does it mean in like the chronology?
Yeah.
Completion. 9 is completion. 9 is the end. Like, actually, matter of fact,
so 9 is the end, and then that's like revolution basically. And 11, that's
11
another
is like, it's how do I put this? 11 would be like a emotional, because you could try and make it as 2, but if you look at how 2 is, women are much more emotional, and 1 on 1.
That's debatable, but I'll go.
Yeah, I mean, granted, men have our emotions. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but it's
absolutely.
It's like, oh yeah, no, like I've seen men.
We are emotional.
Yeah, we are emotional, but it's after.
But I understand women are deeper in their emotion. It's just a fact.
They know how to navigate their emotions much better than we do.
See, that's a nicer thing to say, because usually when you say women are emotional, it's like, oh, men are rational, and that's the difference.
Women navigating their emotions 10 times better than men, because we're technically supposed to be stoic. And like, moving forward, this is the path, and this is where we don't stray off from. Like, we always have to be moving forward with a goal in mind, and we don't have time to sit and dwell over something that made me sad, because I know that
now we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So okay, so 11 then, to come back to, I'm just still stuck on 9/11.
Hold on, wait, I'm actually looking this up right now.
There's that Tool song, 11. Yeah, 11 is a big one.
11 is a heavy influencer. If you've noticed, a lot of people who are really good at singing have 11s in their birthdays, or they have like an 11 life path if you break down their birthday all together. Where is this one at?
And in tradition and in numerology, normally most numbers add up to a single digit, but there are those 11,
there are
22,
those
and 33.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the 3 that break that mold, and I don't know why. Because if you say you had, I'm just doing this for anybody that might watch this. Mm-hmm. If you have 12, that becomes 3.
Yeah.
So if you have 11, it should be 2.
It should be 2.
But it's never 2.
It does not break down to 2, but it's like very, very like depending on oh, you called me Miss Lauren? I'm sorry. It's very depending on like what you're equating it to. So once you get up to 10 and it reaches 11, it doesn't drop to a 2. It just stays at 11 because of how prolific and how strong the double 1 is, I would say. So if you go to double 1s or you go to double 2s or 33, like you go 22, 22 is the master builder or master destroyer. If you look at water, water is like something symbolic to 22. It's life. You can create life or you destroy life. And water is the biggest and brightest example of something being able to conduce and produce life, or to be able to erode and be corrosive to life. Because everybody's screaming, oh my God, we're about to die by a flood because there's global warming. But water is the ultimate life. We are built up of the majority of water. Water consumes this entire planet as soon as all the fucking icebergs decide to melt. You know?
Yeah, the planet's gonna be fine, as George
Oh yeah,
Carlin
no. I'm
joke
not
was.
tripping
Like,
about that. I'm not.
yeah, I
Ice is
know,
supposed to melt, but you know.
but in other words, we're not, is what the George Carlin joke was.
Yeah.
We can't save the planet. We need to try saving ourselves.
You feel me?
And we haven't done much with that since his early '90s joke.
Rest in peace to a goat. Rest in peace to a goat.
Yeah, he was good man. Yeah, I mean, it's like, how long have you been doing this, by the way? When did you start picking up?
So I didn't
You
start.
do Torah, astrology, and
I did. I was enthralled with astrology and presented astrology.
Not Torah. What am I going to say? The cards.
Not astrology. It was numerology, and it was one of my homies. Her name was Kat, former homie. I love you, baby girl, wherever you are. But we had. She was a shift lead with me, and me and her would just chop it up about things, and then she would just like start introducing certain things to me. And she introduced me to astrology and like repeating numbers, and I'm like, wait. I remember exactly the same day I started seeing the repeated numbers as well, because I was playing a video game, my League of Legends folks out there. I was playing League, and all I would see is like these repeating numbers, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, huh? Like, how am I seeing these numbers over and over and over again, and I don't even pay attention to numbers like that? And then I started paying more attention to the numbers and being more aware of being in person opposed to letting my life pass me. Like, I was a lot more active I was a lot more aware and active in what I was doing on a day-to-day. So this was 6 years ago, almost. I'm 22. No, I'm 24 now. 24. Yeah. This was like 6 years ago.
So that was when you first.
When I first got like introduced to it, but I didn't start studying numerology this in depth until I got into GG33. Shouts out to Gary, one of the greatest teachers. I didn't start this until like 2 years ago. So like 2 years ago, like is when I really, really, really got in depth with astrology and numerology. And then I was like, wait, if these numbers can like correlate to this, that, and the third, why don't I just make energetic calendars for people, and their life could be a little bit more cohesive and like a lot easier to a degree of them knowing how to move with certain dates and certain times and, you know, certain things like that.
So when you first started doing that, did you just give it away to people to see how it went?
I was just working on doing readings in person. So I sat down and did like my studying to a very high degree of just like remembering repetition. And then I'd go to certain people and I'm like, okay, when's your birthday? Do the breakdown. And then I'd give them like 3 or 4 facts on each specific, their month, their day, and the year that they were born. And then I'm like, I can do 10 times more of that. And then I started realizing, I'm like, well, what about for myself? I never really sat down and did an energy breakdown for myself until like, I would say a year and a half ago. And I was like, wow, this is really, really cohesive to like astrology. And I love both of these things because why not? If God gave you a map to a treasure and all you got to do is just put in your extra effort, why not take that? Why not take that chance, you know?
Right. All right. So how did it go for other people and for yourself for that matter, when you gave everybody information?
I have one homie named Marcus, and every time we have
Marcus from the podcast or different Marcus?
Different Marcus. Okay. I'll call him Kazuka. And me and Kazuka would always play League, and it would be an 11 day. And I'm like, Marcus, watch out. There might be technical interference. And all of a sudden, I'm lagging, he's lagging, I'm getting disconnected, he's getting disconnected, or one of our teammates get disconnected. I'm like, hey, Marcus, guess what, bro? It's an 11 day. He's like, oh, here goes this man. But, like, can't call me my mom. I let her know. I was like, hey, Ma, go go try and make some money today. Like go play the lottery or something. Every time I like give her that heads up, she more than generally makes money. Like I have like a couple of people who are like, okay, you're onto something, and then I have a couple other people who are like, all right, Nick, we know you're a crazy ass nigga, so it's like, where's this going? And I'm like, look, bro, and this is my quote and the saying that I'll continue to stick: you can't be sane in an insane world, so you might as well be crazy.
I guess crazy is socially acceptable now.
It sure the fuck is. So it's something that like after like I got a certain few confirmations, I'm like, wow, this is like something that needs to be explored and expanded upon a lot more than what we give it credit. Because if it's so prevalent in my life and I see the impact that it has, I don't know why. Like it's like saying, oh well, I'm religious and I believe in God. I had a miracle performed, so you guys, I want y'all to believe in the miracle, so come follow my God type shit. But I can't put that on nobody. But I just say, don't forget, this world is just constructed of numbers. Like everything we do is constructed of numbers. So why not try and really comprehend what rules your world to the most minute but macro, I would say, like a very obvious degree.
What do you think separates yourself or other numerologists from mathematics? Most are not mathematicians.
Yeah.
Occasionally, but you're not like studying calculus every day. You're not like running physics equations.
To be honest, I'd have to give the biggest credence to the organization I joined, GG33. I found out about Gary Greenberg from Hotep Jesus podcast, and he was a numerologist, and I was like, I like numerology. I never really was real in depth with it. I found like a couple of books online from some old lady trying to tell me about my life path number. I remember being on my homie's floor, just reading through it, scrolling through it, and I'm like, this is pretty accurate. Like, can't knock it. And then Gary hopped on HJ's podcast and like broke down so many things historically, athletically. He just broke down so many events. I'm like, holy shit, numbers have so much more of a credence and like credit that a lot of us don't really give it. And so I would like to explore more on it. I paid for his courses, and the things that he breaks down, I'm like, holy fuck. Like, we are genuinely living off of a semi-working wheel. Like, either people are just all about astrology, and astrology's got a fucking terrible name now. Because you go on a date or you're talking to somebody, oh my God, what's your sign? I'm like, and I bet you're using tropical instead of sidereal or Vedic. Like you're only putting it to one format instead of expanding it and being open to possibly other ones, if you will.
Okay, so I think I didn't quite get the question clear to you. But you remind me of the point that there was a point in history when astrology split off from astronomy, and that's where the beginning of that like stigma came, which was like, well, now there's a difference between scientists and people who are thinking of it as divination, and then of course you could say, I don't know, was the church ever against astrology?
The church did. So astrology, I wouldn't even no. So all right, I'm sorry for people who are religious, but if you really look at it, the Bible could be also used as parable breaking down astrology. So I don't.
Astrotheology is another term. Yeah.
So I don't think
Which
they
I
were
love that.
necessarily against it, but I don't think that they were promoting it. I don't think
like
they're promoting it.
right, which may just be, I don't know, it's interesting. Like
But
there's
that's
things that are
separation.
there's aspects of pagan and more astrological thinking, you could say,
Hmm.
in the Christmas holiday, for example.
Yeah.
The solstice occurs on the 21st. Then that's followed by 3 days in which there's no substantially new light in the sky.
Hmm.
It may be the light, on the solstice, it's the least amount of light. And there may be like one more minute of light over the next 3 days.
Right.
But in generally it's increasing or decreasing by about a minute or more a day
Hmm.
between the solstice and the equinox and the next solstice and equinox, and in that cycle over and over.
Right.
So 3 days after, on the first day of new light, is Christmas Day.
Hmm.
That's the day that we celebrate the birth of our
So,
Savior, the light of
yeah.
our world, right?
Uh-huh.
Jesus.
Yeah.
But so that's like astrotheology 101 right there.
Mm.
And these things are tied into our religions, but they're often not talked about.
Yeah.
Same with the numbers.
What is it?
If
If
you
you,
break down Jesus's name in numbers, have you done that before?
I've done it once and I don't remember. I think it was like 33 or something, right?
Right. Yeah, that might be right. Yeah,
I
that's
think and so like Jesus was also known as like the master teacher. Like that's 33 is known as the master. How many vertebrae do we have? Like 33 or something like that?
so. Well, we shouldn't speculate. It sounds
Look,
silly, so I'm going
look,
to say I don't
look,
know.
look.
But yeah, it's these kinds of things.
Well, I mean, you shouldn't speculate, but at the same time, the spine has 33 stacked vertebrae. Look,
Right, right, right.
look. And so like there's if you think about it, you take away one vertebrae from your spine, you're fucked.
Hmm.
Like if something happens to that and you get 32 instead of 33, it's a sense of like illumination, Christ conscious, kundalini, if you will. It's all very, very similar, but they spread it apart. So I have no idea if they denounce it or if it's just, oh, we're just not going to talk about it unless you can really understand the concept of it.
Yeah, I don't know either. So it's interesting how it's stigmatized. You're kind of like meant to look stupid if you're into it, but then we also know that the billionaires, they say,
I'll use
millionaires
that
follow
shit.
the news, the
Hey,
billionaires
come
follow
on
the
now.
stars.
Look, if
Yeah, it's like,
billionaires use the system, I'm going to use it too.
yeah. So then coming back to the question is like, what separates the astrologer to, excuse me, to you, from the astronomer? In other words, how come you're not a mathematician, but you still love these numbers? Why are other people like you the same way?
I think it's a general sense of being able to separate like the science from the occultic aspect. Some people are okay with letting their minds being a lot more open. I'm okay with like an expansive idea that I was foreign to. I'm okay with, well, if one is just one to a scientist, but one could mean so much more to me, why wouldn't I be open to it? Why wouldn't I be accepting to it? What makes his one much more important than my one, if you will?
Hmm.
It gives me a sense to be outside of the box that was constructed. And the thing is that I don't like separating the ideology of um, being like a mathematician from astrology because I think those could be some of the best numerologists on this planet.
It'd probably be amazing, right? But I bet you anything, there are mathematicians who get into it having when they're young, having a little bit of that, their toes dipped in the in the mystical stuff, but that gets beat out of them. I would think socially pressured out of them. I would think.
Yeah, no, but there's a lot of social pressures that would move somebody away from, oh, well, I believe that number 4 means rebellious, impulsive, short-tempered, and secretive. But then use like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't personally subscribe to that idea. Like, you're they're going to call you a pseudoscientist or a pseudo whatever it is. Like, this world is meant to confuse you for what? Like, people are making fun of astrology and don't believe in astrology, numerology, but you have other people, such as my mentor, Gary. He's made bank off of numerology.
How did he do that?
He does sports bets. He says,
I've heard this. I've heard of numerologists that crush it with sports betting.
Because I know the time somebody's going to do great. I know how, what days he's going to be good at and what days he probably is not going to be so hot, because I paid attention to the history, and there's a congruent pattern with history, numbers, and energies. Like, it's,
they say it's all over the Super Bowl. They say it's always all over the Super Bowl. And that's coming right up. Are you watching the Super Bowl?
I have work that day, but I don't know if I've been invited to so many other things. And on top of that, my granny's 92nd birthday is that day. So shout out to Granny. Yeah. Shout out Granny. Yeah. Or I might just kick it with my granny. More than likely kick it with my granny and just take the L with work. But there's going to probably be a Super Bowl party that she's going to be dragged to. But I'm like, oh, no. Her birthday is Saturday. Super Bowl Sunday.
There you go. So you can work that out. Yeah, but you got to watch that halftime show, because that's
the
magic happens.
We did a breakdown last year. With
that's right.
Yeah. And I was like, there's a lot of things that they've been highlighting. For example, the Rams won it last year, right?
Yeah.
And then what happened after? Sorry to go to conspiracy mode. What happened after that? Ukraine, the blue and yellow.
I know.
It was just so prevalent. Blue and yellow. Golden State Warriors doing some things, some numbers.
Yeah, this year it's Philadelphia where I'm at. It seems like Philadelphia is like supposed to be the winner of the Super Bowl. That's how the energy is here. But it's felt like everybody feels like in this city feels like the team is unstoppable right now. I don't know how that feels in other cities, but
I would love to sit down and do the breakdown for that. But I just know for a fact what separates and differentiates me is that I'm a lot more open to possibilities of things having so much more meaning to it. And there's fucking fact, like, people have been proving me right by being okay and being open, opposed to somebody who's closed off to the idea. I think it's like what separates me from other people in numbers and how I feel about numbers is I'm so much more okay with the idea that numbers have much more of a meaning to themselves and to the world as a whole, opposed to me just thinking, oh, well, it's just supposed to be 1 + 1 so that I can figure out a dimension to a desk or something like that.
Yeah. Which is how I use the numbers the most. Basic addition and subtraction for projects around the house.
Don't get me wrong, though. I'll sit down and break out some y equals mx plus b. I love algebra. I actually really loved math. Was one of my favorite subjects as a kid. English. I hated English. Like, English was gunsmoke. But I'd sit down and I would love to try and figure out what is fact. Like, math is fact. Like, that's just how I perceived it. And now that you're telling me fact plus there's an extra additive to the fact, count me in, please.
Yeah. It's interesting. You're not so into English, but you are numbers, but it's good to have. It's all language is the interesting thing.
Yes, it is a language.
It's all language. Having mastery over language is what sophistication is. That's what it is. It's having the ability to use and wield languages to spin or at least explain reality. at least explain it. The sophists of the Greek era were spinning reality in a way that was persuasive, and that was their whole thing. They were masters of persuasion. Plato and
I mean,
his thinking is to be truth, to be completely true and honest, and so he believed in forms, that there were these true forms, and that I would say numbers are part of that, whereas the language is the creation, like we said earlier.
right.
So it's a strange thing. Numbers are a fundamental fact of reality. It makes me feel like a simulation. It's because they do just run through reality in a way that is even seems characteristically different than letters.
Right.
Because nothing in reality is divisible. I guess you can divide things by language. That's interesting.
Oh, so are you saying when
Like numbers are really things in a way, whereas the language describing things isn't.
Yeah, you can do so much more with numbers than you can with the language that is constructed, I guess, of the alphabet.
Yeah, it's a trip. I don't know.
Because look, you can say angle all you want, but they fucking used Morse code, which is a numerological dash. It's a rhythm. It's something, and you were able to say a whole fucking sentence or paragraph or something along the lines of that.
Yeah. The way that music is broken down by numbers, versus you could explain with countless words how to play your instrument a certain way, but the only way you're really going to convey it to the musician is putting really a language. The language of music is written in different ways.
Yeah, like
the Western
and all of the right.
But all of those symbols mean numbers.
A timing, a pattern, how we're going to play the note. How's the note going to hang? What are you going to do the note? Are we going to change it to a higher pitch? The higher pitch can be correlated to numbers.
There's this amazing what you can construct in reality with numbers, from music to engineering. You can describe the fuck out of your vision of a tower with words,
but numbers.
It's going to be a lot harder to actually engineer it with words.
You always will need a number because the number is basically the origin, if you will.
Yeah. Words are beautiful. They really help.
They help elaborate, and they can embellish things and
illustrate
make it a lot better. Illustrate, exactly.
Yeah.
But everything, you look around your room and you can't tell me shit that has nothing to do, like absolutely nothing to do with numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. God doesn't roll the dice. I don't know. Maybe that. Maybe.
No, I think I wouldn't say God wouldn't roll the dice, because all of this being a 1 and 0 simulation, he knows the fact. He knows the equation, the end equation. It's just that we have no book on it. We're out here oblivious. So what do? We use language and we use numbers. And we try and figure out the best equation with language and numbers. And you find out that it has a lot more meaning to it. So yes, for example, words. Words, if you break things down etymologically, there's a deeper meaning to the word. So why would there be a deeper meaning to the number?
Interesting. I mean, so yeah, when you break down a word, it tends to go back much further than you kind of assume it is. Then your cultural moment is rarely connected to the actual origin of the word. There are a lot of words that are added to the dictionary, but when you still break those down etymologically, yes, they bring you further back, and it gets to a pre-author point always. Like with numerology, or astrology too, there's no author of the first book on the subjects. And there's no author of the first like usage of these words, really.
Right.
But you can break them down to go way, way back. You can look thousands of years into the past at these words. But somehow I feel like there's it's just so much different from numbers. There's no author to the numbers. What did you say before?
What I basically said is like etymology. There's a deeper meaning to words. So
there should be a deeper meaning in numbers.
The numbers, you feel me?
Yeah, but the numbers are such a fact.
There is a fact. There is a fact.
They are such a fact.
I don't believe that it being a fact.
Oh, okay, Dig. Are you saying the numbers associated with the words? That when you break down words and tie them to numbers? Because that's where I would say that they're going to stay tied together for a point, and then just numbers just are. So there's no real meaning to them, except for where you begin to apply meaning to them or find correlations in reality to them. But there is a construction of language that you can trace with numbers, the way that some of our most ancient words have these numerological correlations.
Yeah.
Yep. You've done some of that, right? You've seen some of that.
Yeah.
And I can't quote anything.
I wouldn't be able to quote anything off the top of my head either. But I've seen most definitely examples in old illustrations. I wouldn't be able to source it. So, I mean, don't quote me on it, but I believe the Mandela effect ain't hit me. So, you know.
Oh, yeah, that's been going around a lot lately. Too much Mandela effect happening these days. Yeah, so the numbers tied to words, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Because they are. Okay, we've gone above the hour. I don't know if I mentioned this to you before, but I try to make it an hour-long show now.
Okay.
So I feel like we did an arc, we did an intro. I feel like it's always hard for me to get into a subject and really feel like I got through it, the process through it exactly how I wanted to and learned everything I wanted to learn.
We can do a part 2 sometime soon.
Right.
No worries.
I just always go, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay because look, you will never find the end of numbers. It's infinite. Yeah. So therefore, with the understanding of what you've gotten, you take it, and you play with the idea, and then you try and expand upon it more, but you will never find that period. Like you'll never find the period.
No. That's what makes fun. That's what makes reality fun.
Yeah.
If we do this again, this kind of show again, I think we should talk with other people in
I can bring some more people.
Similar disciplines like astrologer, the Torah card. No,
tarot.
Tarot. I was like, I knew it wasn't Torah. Tarot cards. Actually, yeah, you do tarot.
Yeah, I do. Most definitely.
But we could definitely have like a dynamic conversation.
I would love that.
Yeah,
I would love that. That would be pretty dope. And actually, if you could, and if this doesn't throw everything off, I'd appreciate it if you brought people who didn't necessarily believe in it as well.
Oh yeah, we could have a hell of a party. Get like
that would be one hell of a
skeptic.
Discussion.
Yeah, a good skeptic. I mean, I can kind of stand in as a skeptic too, because I'm both of that. Like,
yeah, you're the skeptic, but I've proven my ideas to you at least.
Yeah, I'm open-minded. That's the thing. Is just I can represent the skepticism because I have all those critical. Like I could ask you. I could have asked you harder questions and been more like poking holes if I wanted to, but it's not really what I feel like doing.
Not right now. I got you.
No. Yeah, I'm not into that. I'm more interested in learning how you think about it. So thank you, Nicco. Appreciate. I hope you had fun.
This was.
All right, groovy. Don't get off the stream unless you have to go.
No.
Just hang out. Do my quick outro.
Okay.
All right. See you on the other side.
Yes, sir.
Oh, find Nicco. Sorry, Nicco. I took you out already. Forgot to do your promo stuff. It's okay. Just find him, man. Find him. Find him on my Twitter. And on my blog, and all the links are going to be in there in those posts. So thank you for tuning in. I seen one person, nobody in the chat today, but that happens sometimes. It's okay. And people will be checking it out over time as it sits on YouTube. Please subscribe so you can check out other shows. Follow me on Twitter so you can watch them as they pop up live, hear my other random thoughts. I appreciate hearing from you. So check me out. I'll check you out. That's it. Love you. Be happy.